Hey guys, this is Ashley and Rest, and we are back for another episode of She Wolf Alchemy. This week we are talking about birth control, the pill, the whatever method. Well, I guess we're specifically talking about the hormonal methods that are used for birth control. It's something that, that a lot of women get on young at an early age to try to prevent pregnancy, but there's also so much other stuff that we kind of don't talk about. And so we wanted to bring some of those things to light and just have an honest conversation about it today.
Yes. So me and you have had several conversations about this. It's been a conversation me and you kind of talked about throughout the years because I think both of us have been on birth control since our teen years, and it's been pretty consistent. And I have a whole child. Well, it was consistent. Was pregnant when I was on birth control when I found out I had her. So when I was pregnant, but it has been like a consistent thing. And then we both actually at the same time, like last year, we were both like, why am I on birth control?
Yeah.
I wonder what happens when I get off. And then we both got off around the same time and was like, yo, what is life? Because a whole bunch of things happen that like we kind of weren't really that prepared for. I know for me, the biggest thing that happened is, and I think I've talked about this in other episodes, is that like I had just believed in my head I was a chosen one. And I've always had like clear skin, acne, just it just was not a thing for me. I did not understand. I got off birth control and had to deal with acne for the first time in my life and did not know what to do. Like I was 30 years old and was like, okay, I guess we're gonna get some Noxzema. And I was like, Noxzema doesn't work? What? What? And then I had to slowly find out, like, oh, we spending hundreds of dollars on our skincare um, a month. Why didn't y'all tell me this?
Yeah, I don't I find it fascinating that that is the image that you got. Because I definitely never had that. I mean, I feel like my skin has always been a struggle, but I have noticed
Hmm.
that the struggle has become realer since then. So, yeah. But I know for me, I had been on birth control since I was 17.
Hmm.
And like I started off with it was always something that was going to happen because my mom was very much like you just don't need to have no babies. Like her biggest thing was like she had me at a young age because she didn't know that contraceptives were a thing. That's just not a conversation anyone had with her. And so she was like really big on making sure that I had that as an option, that I utilized that option. But she probably would have put me on it whether I requested it or not,
Hmm.
which I can understand. But then that goes to, you get on something that's as a teenager and don't really, which I remember because at one point I did switch to the shot. And I do
Mm.
remember like doing research on it and looking at it because one, I remember when I first got on the pill, like a pill or a shot, but one of them I remember looking up and it said that it would decrease your sex drive. I
Hmm.
specifically remember reading that side effect because it concerns me, right, as a hot and ass teenager. But no, but I remember telling my boyfriend at the time, I was like, "Oh my God, like this says that it could lower my sex drive," which he was a jerk, and to that he responded, "Well, good, then maybe you'll be normal," and that is
Wait, that's another episode.
no, but I distinctly do remember like looking up the side effects and seeing that and seeing a few side effects, right? But the doctors always tell you that it's fine. Like I remember asking my doctor, "Hey, it says here that like I could gain a bunch of weight,"
Hmm.
and they were like, "Yeah." They were basically, it's like 5, 10 pounds. Like you'll be fine. And to be fair, I was a little skinny teenager and I could stand to gain weight, but yeah, who knows how much was attributed to that pill versus whatever. But the shot, I remember looking it up and it saying that it could cause
Yeah.
bone marrow deficiency if you're on it for I think more than 2 years or something. So I
Hmm.
was on it for a couple of years, but I had it in my mind like I can't stay on this. Like I
Yeah.
can't. But at the time, it was helpful because I was in college. My life was all over the place, and I wouldn't have took no pill every day.
Yeah.
So at the time, that was what was necessary. And thankfully, by the time that 2 years was up, I felt more responsible. Like I can manage doing this every day and then switched back to the pill, but was on it for 10 plus freaking years. And who knows?
Oh, did you watch, okay, did you see the TikTok I sent you about that?
I think so. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so guys, there was a TikTok video I seen where a woman was explaining. I don't know if it's true or not. It's on TikTok. Anybody can lie on there. But the woman was explaining like she had recently went to a OB/GYN visit and she was like, "Oh, I want to, get back on the shot. I've been on it for this many years." She was like, "You've been on the shot for how long?" And same thing, it was like 10 plus years. And she was like, "You're not supposed to be on the shot for more than 2 years." And she
Right.
was like, "What?" And like she said, the doctor broke it down to her like, "Who put you on it for this long? It's dangerous for you to be on longer than like 2 years or what." I can't remember the amount, but it was a very short amount of time.
It's two. Because
Yeah.
again, I was on
Yeah.
it for two. But
And
to that point, no doctor ever told me that. I
oh
happened to
no.
have looked that information up and was like, oh, I'll make sure that I'm on it no longer than this. But I, every other doctor I saw was like, everything's safe. It's just
Look, they don't. You know what? So I got on birth control when I was 14 because I had severe cramping and I just had severe cramping. Periods was like I was missing school the first 2 days of my period every month. And my mom was like, we gotta do something about this because this is becoming too much. And the doctor was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, we're gonna put her on birth control." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not sexually active. Do I need to be?" And they're like, "Yeah, no, it's gonna stop it, whatever, whatever." And that's all the information I got on it. Like, did nobody feel the need to really tell me anything else? And yeah, she's like, "You're gonna get on this, and it's fine." And that's what I did. And it's funny because when I went off birth control, that was my biggest concern. Like, oh crap, I don't know what this is gonna look like. I don't know my period. I don't know if cramping is gonna be harsh. And then I got off, and my cramping is better.
hmm
Like I don't, it's not a big thing to get. If anything, I'm more annoyed about being on my period just because it's an inconvenience at times. But there's no like cramping's not a thing. I could grab me a Tylenol, one or two, put in my purse, and I'm good for the day. But that's literally like all I was told about it. So then when I got off and it was like not a thing, I'm like, hold on,
Mm.
can I just change my diet and exercise? And this would have why do y'all tell me I could just change my diet and exercise? Because I would hear other girls say that, like, "No, you just gotta take out dairy, girl," or "You just gotta," and I'd be like, "Yeah, y'all, yeah, yeah." Are y'all also those ones who are like, if you just stop eating meat, your
Won't have a
psychosis will go away? Like, I was just not, I was just not. When other people would tell me that, I'm like, "You're not a doctor, okay? That's what you told me." And then, like, yeah, like last year, I made a couple changes to my day. That's when I started biking more, and yeah, and now my parents aren't bad.
But that's real shit. And you're right. We do ignore that. And I think it is because of that medical stuff of like just, oh, throw this at it and throw that at it. But there
Mhm.
are a lot of things like I definitely have noticed that with my cycle as well. My diet and what I'm doing, it impacts it. It's not as miserable and heavy if I'm getting proper movement and I'm eating better. Like it just isn't as miserable versus
Yeah,
yeah, if I'm getting slapped around by my cycle, I'd be like, yeah, I've been eating really crappy all month. Or, like I know. And I can tell the difference. But there's so many things that impact our hormones and how our bodies respond to stuff. And we don't,
yeah,
no, they don't give us the time to look into it. They're just like, here's this pill to control your hormones. And that way you won't, because that's what it does. It
yeah,
literally keeps your body at this like stasis point of thinking that it's pregnant so that it doesn't try to get pregnant. That's what it's doing. And when you think about that, you're like, so what that mean? Like what is that really doing? Like
what
I
is the
remember
long-term effects of that?
what are the long term
Why does every other woman I know my age has PCOS? And look, but
and
that was
don't
not
know
a
until they
thing.
get off the pill.
And that was not a thing in my mother's generation. Why is that? Why is that a thing? I'm telling you, that's a the increase in like ovarian cancer, the increase in PCOS, the increase, what is the other one? Endometriosis. All these are things, and some of these are things that you guys, I know, you can be like, well, it's more prevalent now because then we have a name for it, blah, blah. No, but these things existed back in our mamas and them time. It just wasn't, I don't know. I don't know. Something about popping out 12 babies in a row kept grandma fine. That's all I'm saying.
There is a rise, and I remember when I started noticing that with a lot of women around me, specific, and maybe I want to say specifically Black women because I guess the only people I'm talking to closely about their bodies, it could be happening to other women. I feel like I noticed it in my circle of like, I was like, what is it in the water? Is it
Yeah.
in the like something is happening? And that's so frustrating. And I think that's very common for women where we see things that we're like, this is happening around me and it feels like it should be something talked about or it should
Yeah.
be a big deal. And yet I'm not hearing anything about it, or I'm asking my doctor and they're telling me everything is fine, or that this isn't
Yeah.
a thing to be worried about. So, okay. But I'm seeing a pattern in my life and with the people around me. That's strange.
Yeah.
And the same for, and that ain't what we're talking about right now, but hell, it sounds like this, it could be talking about just women's health issues. The same with things like BV or yeast, it felt like stuff that is normal and
Yeah.
solutions for that. The journey of doctors and their shit and not just it just ticks me off. That's all. Because that is such a common issue that a lot of women have experienced at one point in their life or may have times where they experience a back to like bouts of it
Mm-hmm.
and with no feeling like there's no real solutions to it. And it's crazy because it's like if I'm having this experience and you having this experience, I know Tina, why is this not widely talked about? Why
Why
can't
is
I
this not?
get a cure for this at the damn store? Why is my doctor not telling me? Why doesn't my doctor have more information to actually help me resolve this issue?
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
hell?
I remember one thing I'm so grateful for is when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had a black OBG. I started off with a black male, but he was too busy, not busy, but like he had a lot of clients, so it was always hard to schedule him. I moved to a black woman doctor, and it was really big to me that I had a woman of color, just with black mortality rates when it comes to black women giving birth. All the research behind black women's health shows us that hey, got a higher chance them taking your pain seriously and caring about your health if your doctor is also a person of color and sees you as a human being and does not deny your pain. So I was really big on that. Like my nurses are gonna be black, my doctor's black. That's what we doing here. And I was so thankful because I found an amazing doctor who was big. Like when I would come in and I'd be like, okay, and they'd be like, all right, well, your blood pressure's a little high, and so we're going to so you're gonna get on a treadmill. So I'm gonna need you to, and she would give me a list of foods to eat and be like, cut this out, cut this. If anything was going on in my pregnancy, she was always big to like, we're gonna try the natural way first.
Mm-hmm.
What can I get you to naturally do to help before medication? And I appreciated that because I had someone close to me that was pregnant around the same time, and they were just getting medicines for stuff. And then I was like, oh, and like we would go through similar things, and they would be like, oh, okay, well, and did they put you on blah blah blah? I'm like, no, she told me to stop eating potatoes, and she was just like, they're like, what? I was like, I don't know, it went away though. I stopped eating potatoes and it went away. And I appreciated that because a lot of information I got from her, also related to like not being pregnant. And I'm like, no one had ever told me this. No one had ever. I remember, again, I remember working with a group. We used to go out and do sexual health in the community. We used to talk to teens and we were talking about other things, but part of that was also talking to them about their sexual health. And we had a section where we separated the boys and the girls and we're talking. And like you said, one of the topics that came up was like consistent yeast infections, consistent bacterial infections, things like that. And, at that age, everybody, especially back then, this was like 2013, like they were timid to talk about it. And of course, it was still that mindset like, oh, you dirty then. Girl, you dirty. That's what that means. And it was like, no, there's a whole bunch of things that could be, you could be drinking too much soda.
Yeah.
That's what that is. You could be drinking too much soda. But one of the things I remember coming out, my colleague has said something to her like, okay, let me just ask, do you and your boyfriend use protection? And then no. Okay. Check that. This could be that man. That man up here. And like, it was the first time these girls had ever heard, oh, my partner can be messing up my pH balance. Like, it was a brand new thing to them.
Whereas that right there, let me tell you, that just triggered me because it ticked me off.
I know. I
because
know. We've
because
had this convo.
this is again, and this is what I think, what I find very personally upsetting. I think there are other women who relate too, is when you are asking, you are seeking the information from the freaking people who should know, and they're literally looking you in your face and telling you that's not a thing. And because I recall having back to back issues and going to the doctor and saying, could it be my partner? Could it be him or us or some combo of our body fluids or some shit? Like, could it be? And they were like, no, there's no way. It's not an STD. I'm not saying it's a STD. I'm saying,
Mhm.
is it some shit he got going on that could
Mhm.
be impacting? No. And it happened to be, and I believed that, right? And just really thought that it was something I was doing. And then it happened that I was one day just, I mean, I was in pain. I was
Yeah.
really having a bad experience. And I had gone to the emergency room, and it was like a male nurse that was checking me in. And he was the one who was like, oh, it could be your partner. Sometimes two people just have different bacteria, flori, and whatever the hell. And then this gets with that, and it blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I can't even, I can't even
Look,
describe, but thank you was able to solve. Oh my god, but it just pissed me off because I had been saying, and but by being told by the people who I thought knew something, oh, nah, and then you look at stuff up online and it's people saying, repeating the same crap. No.
look, look.
Listen, for anybody, for any woman listening, we need to highlight, yes, these men can throw off your pH balance. They can throw it off. They can throw it one way and you get a yeast infection. They can throw it the other way and you get a bacterial infection. What they can throw it off based on their diet, their
Mm.
hygiene, their whatever the heck they got going on. It can impact you. So you are not crazy. You are,
I'm telling you, somebody listen to this and got a breakthrough.
I hope you have it because Lord
Someone is
have
like, I
mercy.
done took away all the soda. I stopped drinking
Okay,
orange juice. I got um loose cotton panties. I done did
girl,
everything. Has it
you
not
get on the
working?
internet,
It's that man.
the internet have you putting whole kitchens inside your vagina.
You
I
know,
think
went to Home Depot, got boratic acid. You're
borax.
like,
You get
why ain't
borax.
it working? It's that man.
You freezing yogurt and Lord have mercy. It's that man.
Look, look. Look, sometimes look, man, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And guys, not to drag any guys listen. I don't know if the men are listening this far. They're like, this episode. About
I
all
feel
that.
like they saw the title was like, this ain't even for us. This ain't
But
even,
y'all
they
need to
know
know.
the whole what.
Because you know what? That too, though. I know I can also remember the first time that I was in a relationship, and because that's a hard thing to have to explain something going on with your body to your partner.
Mhm.
It should be an easy thing. And now I know, like, once I've had the experience of having to tell a partner, of being honest and being like, hey, my pH is off, and I would really rather that we not do certain
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
And he was like, oh my gosh, babe, like something happened, blah. Like we had a whole conversation about it that was
That's
so
beautiful.
helpful and touching. Whereas in, like, yeah, I had tried to have that conversation with the person who, no, but whereas in I had tried to have that conversation, I remember with a previous partner, and it was, I was having to work overtime to explain that I wasn't dirty. And that
Look,
is so hard and uncomfortable. So I'm a big proponent of it. Yeah, I want a partner who I can talk to about what's going on with my body and
mhm.
not feel gross. I don't want to be with anyone who thinks periods are gross. I don't want to be with anyone who can't have an open, honest conversation about birth control and contraception. I want to be able to talk about all the stuff.
As you should be able to. As you should be able to. Also, side note, things I want to throw in there. Y'all, I heard a rumor. That's how I found out about this. Also, be careful with like putting things like whipped cream and stuff down there, and then be like, okay, hey, what's what's going on? Things like that also can cause, just stuff to happen. And, we see stuff on like movies or hear it in songs about, oh, let's try that. And like, I heard that can cause issues too.
You heard?
I heard that you gotta make sure that is thoroughly cleaned after. Gotta make sure they clean up all of it because that too can cause issues. Just want to throw that out there because that's I feel like that's also a thing that no one talks to you about.
There's
Yeah,
other places to put the food items.
there's other places you could put food items that sugar sugar should not be in that area. Oh, try I heard that's hard to explain to your doctor. I heard it's very hard to explain to your doctor. But yeah, so I definitely agree. I think some of the times with issues with things like birth control is people aren't getting all the full information of what they're signing themselves up for, what they're signing themselves into, and how that can affect your body. I know for me, because again, birth control for me for the longest time wasn't even about just like not getting pregnant, because I was big for most of my life. Not all. I had moments, but for most of my life, I was always big on like using all types of protection, covering all types of barriers. But so it really wasn't for that reason for me for a long time, but it was more so like controlling my period. And I would use it to skip my period. And my doctor was like, yeah, yeah, that's fine. That's okay. Cool. And then I ended up at the hospital once because of it, because I started bleeding nonstop for over a month.
Oh
And I was
wow.
like, and I had called once it was like once it got to like past 7 days, I was like, hey, they're like, yeah, you're good. And then like week two, I'm sending an email, didn't get a response. And I was like, okay. Now it's week three, and I'm like, okay. And basically, when I got to the hospital, I was like, yeah, why are you? You're not supposed to skip your period this long. There's a reason. And basically, the conversation I had with them was like, yeah, you know how you have those birth controls? They're like, skip your period for 3 months and then break. So I was like, there's a reason you're supposed to have a break. My ass was doing this for like 2 years plus.
Oh, oh,
I
oh.
was just skipping through, like because was so terrified of because when I tell you
Okay. Period pain.
yeah, like when I was like 14, they were putting me on like high level drugs, like opioids to deal with my cramping because I was in that much pain. And so I was really trying to avoid that. I was like, I got a job, I got things to do, I got all this stuff. And so like, yeah, I was like going 2 years just skipping my period. I just had this moment where, yeah, like it was nonstop. I had to go to, they had to give me the depot. They have a pill form of the depot
Mhm.
and that's what they had to give me to make it stop. And then they were like, don't get on birth control for a while. And I ignored it and I did, but it worked itself out. But I didn't know that. And my professionals were just telling me like, no, you're good. And I would tell them like, yeah, I'm pretty much just on this to skip a period at this point. They're like, yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Nobody had warned me.
Yeah,
Nobody had warned me.
I used to do that and want to have it once every 3 months. And that was a big part of trying to, like what you were saying, that I stayed on it so long since I was so used to having that control.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I got something going on this weekend. I ain't gonna have a period.
Look,
And I was like, what is that gonna look like if I get off of it? And I don't know why. I just thought my life was gonna be overrun with blood and
there's blood everywhere.
blood and cramps. And I would never get to enjoy anything. I don't know what the hell, but it's actually not what's happened. It's fine. It's very manageable. It's not a
Yeah,
big deal.
yeah.
But also, how could it's funny to think like it's like something that is that strong to control our whole cycle. Like, how could it not have long-term effects?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. And
That's
besides the effects outside of vaginal health, like what effects is that having on your mental health? What effects is that having on your again, me and you talked about this before of like we hear about it now all the time, people talking about it, or I feel like I hear about it all the time, talk about it, of women just finding out that like, hey, your birth control is having effect on your sense of smell and how it is a big biological thing of you being attracted to your partner's smell. And like they talk about this also in psychology of like, yeah, when you hear them start saying like, I don't like my partner's smell or whatever, that is like way back evolutionary stuff telling you like you and him are not biologically a match. And there's a thing of women coming online talking about how like, yeah, I got birth control and I realized I think my partner stink. Like I am disgusted by his smell.
hmm
And women talking about like, yeah, no, I got birth control and realized I did not like my partner. And like literally ending things with partners. And there's this whole online discussion of that. Like, hold on. What chemistry is being messed with in my body
yes.
And now that's also affecting how I mate, how I choose mates. And it's a whole thing.
The problem is we've gotten to the point, or I think over time, where hormones have been talked about like they're just these like unimportant things that need to be controlled, or they'll control us, and ha ha
Hmm.
ha, it's just hormones, hee hee hee. And like we need to stop with that language and really call it, because it's your body, it's the chemistry in your body, which also impacts the chemistry in your brain, which also impacts your mood. Like there's no way that something is impacting you on a hormonal level, on a which is your body chemistry. That's what it is. That's what your hormones are when we're talking about it. It's your body chemistry. There's no way that something is having an impact on that and it is not also having an impact on your brain, your mental health, your moods, all of
Hmm.
those things. It has so many effects. And for some people, those side effects may be worth the results, right? If your goal
Hmm.
is I don't want to have a baby, or I'm trying to avoid this, but I'm doing this, that's but I guess the thing is we just need to be informed
Yeah.
and not be just tossed on the pill like it's a cure all for all things, and here to just solve, goodness. Because like you were saying, even in your instance, and now I know that there's teens who get tossed on it for acne. And it's
Yeah.
like, great, clear skin is beautiful, but is it worth the effects of everything else, especially long term, instead of it being taken when it's needed or being taken with the weight that it actually has?
As one of the former chosen ones, yes, it is. It very much is. I miss my glowing skin. I
Oh,
miss being radiant for no reason.
okay.
Uh, no, obviously it is not. But I agree with you. Like it needs to be talked about because yeah, I feel like for a long time we've been told like it's just hormones. You control them, go about your life. It's such not a factor. And it's like, no, no, wait. Now we have a bunch of us who are in our 30s that are now looking back like maybe me putting me on birth control as soon as I hit puberty was not a good idea.
Your body's literally trying to send us signals and talk to us, and we're just like, nah, take this pill and shut up.
Look,
Everybody's like, hey, something smells funny over here. I don't think we like this guy. Hey, my mood over here is going. Hey, something you're eating is causing us problems, and we're just like,
look,
take this pill and keep on rolling.
but also that part of like, okay, something that I'm eating is causing this problem. Why not tell me so I can stop eating it? There needs to be a bigger emphasis on what we are putting into our bodies. And I was one of those people, and I still struggle with the balance today of sometimes we believe like, oh, well, the professionals say this. And we have to understand the professionals are paid, employed, educated by an industry. And the more we progress as humans, the more and more is coming out that there's a lot of stuff that is shaped by industries. And they are the ones who are paying for the board of whatever, whatever. And the board is the one who's saying, okay, this is what we're going to teach the students, and this is blah, blah, blah. And so much of the stuff that we're getting, how much of that is actual fact, and how much of that is just to support an industry that does not care about our health?
It needs, yes. If y'all don't hear nothing else. Because even I mean, I make that case when it comes to milk. Milk
Hmm.
has been controlled by it's about the Department of Agriculture. Whatever type of stuff they trying to move, whatever government subsidies or foolishness or something is going on, it's going to determine what types of stuff they start pushing out. That
Hmm.
whole we grew up with the food pyramid. Michelle Obama changed
Look,
it to my plate, and I remember when I was like, how she could just change it? I thought the pyramid was the
when
base of
the
all
first
things.
the first time, because you're the first person who pointed that out to me, where you're like, yeah, the food pyramid is bullshit. And I was like, what? What? Nah, nah, I gotta eat lots of breads. That makes sense. Carbs. He was like, no, no, I'm gonna send you some stuff. And I was like, no, 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 no. And then, like, yeah, reading through it and be like, y'all just made this up. Like, the industry just gave y'all money, and y'all was like, okay, this is what we gonna tell to this whole generation.
Was about what they need to move. Yeah. And then right. And then someone comes along and says, actually, no, this is let's switch to this my plate method. And now we're gonna eat now these are the portions we go by. And you're like, wait, I thought to be a human body, I had to eat these things. No. And especially
Dairy, Lord.
Dairy. Milk be my pet peeve because of how much it was pushed on us as a youth. That whole Got Milk campaign.
Uh,
Every school, they serving it for breakfast and lunch. Ew.
Even if you
And
didn't have lunch money, they would give you milk because they had surplus. There
milk.
was times where I was in my classroom. I remember elementary, there was times in our classroom, they would just randomly come by with cartons of milk and just give it to us in the middle of history. And I'll be like, okay, guess we drinking milk in history. Why is we? But later found out, thanks to Ashley, I did later find out because you I went down a rabbit hole because of you and found out that there was a point in time because the industry was pushing milk so heavily that we had such a large surplus of milk that the government had like a contract to buy so much, and the government has such a surplus. They were sending it to other countries. They were giving away free at different programs, and they still couldn't. And it was just too much. So they started to y'all just give them the milk, basically, in the schools.
That's where you get
And
stuff
it
like
made
government cheese.
like government cheese. But it blew my mind because when I found that out, I was like, is that why they would randomly just give us lots of milk in school? Because I legit remember being in school and they would just come by and give us chocolate milk, strawberry milk in the middle of math. And I'm like, why do I want, why? Why?
Because
Don't
it's
you
about
got
to go bad.
flowers?
It's about to go bad. And they're like, yeah, we got to get this out of here. We got to move the milk.
Here's the milk. Get the milk.
I mean, it is absurd how much they press that onto us, and you made it seem like this is a staple, and if you don't have this, your bones will break. Okay,
They, here's the thing, guys. So I don't like milk, and I've never liked milk.
I've never liked it
I've
either.
never liked milk. But my mom used to use this as a bargaining chip. Like, see, because my brothers were little wildcats. Okay, they was always doing shit they needed to do. My one brother, he broke his leg doing DMX bike tricks off the roof, like just always doing this stupid shit. And my mom used to come to me and be like, "Yeah, drinking milk. Okay, you see how Earl broke his leg? Mm-hmm. You know why? Because he don't be drinking enough milk. It was because he was jumping off the roof with a DMX bike." BMX bike, but it was used. And I was like, I guess I gotta drink milk because I definitely plan to do some dumb shit later. And I was drinking milk and I hated it. My body hated it.
And
To
I
this day,
and
my body hates it.
and right. So knowing that, so I feel I'm the same way. I think it's so gross. And when I learned that we didn't actually need it, I felt so just hoodwinked and upset about it. And I was like, so then why was this pushed on me? Y'all, we get vitamin D from the sun. We get vitamin D from the sun. It breaks down, and that's how we get calcium, whatever the hell. Look it up. You don't need milk. Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, it can help, but it can also do a lot of harm because that's the other thing. Like you're how much it was pushed, and how much of the population is actually lactose intolerant, especially Black and brown folks are
Yeah.
lactose intolerant, and yet kids are going to school getting pumped with milk all day. And when our body has an allergy to something or is unable to process something, it's not just, oh, I get stomach
A
issues.
tummy ache.
It
Hmm.
impacts you again, your whole body, the way that your body is pulling nutrients, the way that it processes what it does with that chemistry. It impacts everything. You
This is literally your body telling you this is not supposed to be in me. And we just take it like, it's fine. And it's funny because again, with there's so many other ones that because I guess the symptoms aren't deadly, you just be like, no, because it's almost in everything. It's cool. It's almost in everything. And just go about your life. And now you on the toilet for 8 hours because you just had to have that milkshake.
I think one of the biggest things to highlight in talking about what the professionals push and why and how is that's why it's so important for you to learn your own body
Hmm.
and really learn how different things impact it. And bringing this back to our main topic of birth control, I think that's why it's important to take breaks or
Yeah.
have some time off of it to just sort of detox. I hate to say it that way, but to detox and actually see what your body does, how your body responds to different things. What does your cycle actually look like without birth control? What does everything? What does sleep like? What is you have to know your body and how things impact it because their degrees and all this other stuff are important, but they can't tell you about the skin you've been walking in your whole life. You
Hmm.
know what's going on, and you have to, well, you got to be in tune to know what's going on.
Yeah. And I know this is more about body health, but I'm, as you guys know, me and Ashley are both therapists. And it's one of the things that I like to tell people I immediately in my consultation to know what type of therapist you're getting. One of the big things I like to tell my clients is I'm a big believer you are the expert on you. And the knowledge that you have on yourself is always going to be able to outbeat the knowledge that I have clinically when it comes to certain things. So if we're talking about something and you're like, Rest, that's not connecting, that's not making sense, whatever, then okay, let's bring in your expertise too. And I think we don't have enough people in professional roles that do that. And I especially, I hate to say it, it feels like sometimes you definitely deal with that in the medical field where you're coming in and you're telling them like, no, I'm telling you this is a thing. And they're like,
I went to
the
school.
doctor. I had when I was like in my early 20s, and I was like 21, I got really, really sick, and I was going to doctors nonstop, like nonstop, trying to figure out what was going on with me. I was having excruciating pains, and I had some doctors like trying to gaslight me into just like, I don't know, ain't nothing showing up, so I feel like ain't nothing wrong. And I was like, yo, this has been going on for like a year. Like I actually one night in the middle of the night had to call a good friend of mine to come pick me up and take me to the hospital because I was like, I am in so much pain I can't move. And I finally got somebody that was just like, this is stress. This is your body telling you. You basically what they told me is like you got to leave your job. You're doing this job is killing you, and I did. I left that job and never had that pain ever again in my life. Never had that. And now it's why I'm so big on when I'm in a job. There was a thing where my friends used to like to make fun of me because I would just leave jobs. I was just, I'm done. Anyways, I'm just, we're good and go on. But it was because of that experience because I was like, never again will I allow a job to get me to that stress level where my body will react. And I know that's the thing for me. My body will react to stress by like breaking itself down. And at one point, I got to choose me or my body. But it was such a thing where I was like working with these professionals. I was telling them what was happening. They're like, yeah, well, no, you can't be feeling that. Because if that was happening, this would show up. And that's not showing up. So that can't be a thing. That goes back to saying, like, yes, professionals, they are needed. We do need their expertise, but also to recognize that, again, you are the expert on you. You know yourself, you know your body. There needs to be a combination of both, but also, again, there's a whole industry that is funneling and tunneling money towards boards, towards educations, toward blah, blah, blah. And sometimes a whole profession's curriculum of how they're taught ain't got nothing to do with what's the best practice.
Hmm.
So, going back to the birth control part.
And also to add to like, well, just as additional,
Mhm.
there are so many things that in these people fields that are literally practice, and practice meaning that they don't have the right answer the first time, meaning that there's different ways to do it, meaning that there's new research and education and all of those things that come out all the time, and everyone isn't necessarily keeping up on those things. Everyone isn't necessarily practicing with that in mind. So that's why again it's important for you to just know some
Girl,
of the stuff.
yeah, yeah. Again, I know I'm talking more about psychology field, but like in the psychology field, we have a book, the DSM, all right? And it depends what number we're on in that ear, which one we're using. But that's the book you use to help diagnose. When I started out in the field, I can't tell you how many people I knew that were still using the DSM-4.
Mhm,
I would come in to do internships and stuff, and they're like, okay, well, the Axis 2. I'm like, Axis 2? Why are y'all still doing Axis 2?
mhm.
Why are y'all still doing? And this is something like we on DSM-5 at this point, and
Oh,
they're
but
still
they
using
switched when?
they're still using a whole book that says homosexuality
Right.
is it's a mental illness.
But when did they switch? When insurance companies started saying we're only going to accept DSM-5 diagnoses.
Hmm.
That's when everybody switched.
And again, I know that's psychology, but understand this type of thing is happening in other fields too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And I like that you got before being on medication. I just think that it is to rule those things out because these pills are not just there's not nothing in them. There's stuff in them that is interacting with our body and changing again and meant to change our chemistry. It's literally interacting with your chemistry to try to balance or alter it in some sort of way that is supposed to help you feel better and manage better. But if
Hmm.
you if that ain't what's wrong, if it's something else and you're junking around with your brain chemistry, there's an effect to that. Like we really need to. I'm very leery of doctors who are just like, nah, there's no effects to nothing. There's effects to stuff. I
Mm,
don't care. It's long term effects to every doggone thing, whether you've had time to look into it or not. There's something. So definitely, just yeah, we're just emphasizing heavy on the try to learn yourself, try to look at things holistically.
mm-hmm.
You would think it's so strange to me how much our medical and mental health fields are so separate, and they shouldn't be. They
Yeah.
really shouldn't be, because they all go together. Most people have the greatest results when they have these overlapping interdisciplinary teams helping them and supporting and working on them. Someone who can look and say, "Oh, well, have we considered this before we jump to that?"
There's still every now and then I'll get into like a conversation with somebody about something like mental health wise, and I'm like, yeah, because this. I'm like, all this DSM-5 is opinions. Just want y'all to know they're all just opinions. Because you
My
can go
friend,
to another therapist and they diagnose you with something completely different, and they can both use the DSM-5 and technically be right.
no, for real. It's literally a grouping of symptoms, and I'm like, this lines up. But I know for me, I think one of the final, like, I guess, nails in the coffins or flags or something that really just made me be like, whoa, was when we went to that seminar thing about the opioid epidemic, and
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about how, well, there is so much evidence and research that shows that a lot of people become addicted to opioids through their doctor, because,
Mm-hmm.
because they going in for a fracture and getting dang prescribed these extremely addictive, hence freaking opioids for minor issues, because God forbid any of us be uncomfortable. And that's, please don't get me. I'm okay. But that's something that I feel like I've just watched. There are so many things I feel I've watched my whole life, and it just drives me insane to just watch the patterns and people just be like, well, nothing's happening here. And it's like, y'all see this?
Look.
Y'all. But yeah, our culture and this whole medicating for every doggone thing, as if God forbid that we actually experience discomfort. Like, I remember one of my professors giving an example of, like, when his father died, his mom's doctor tried to put her on medication for depression, and she's like, I'm just sad. It's just grief. It's like, yes, there are some levels of grief that can be debilitating, but there's plenty that we can work through. There's lots that can be worked through and done. Like, we don't have to just, gracious. But anywho, um, people getting on, a lot of people develop these addictions by doing what their doctor recommended, by taking
Mm-hmm.
their opioid, their pills, by doing mama, and then next thing you know, they're hooked on them, because these things, some of these things are highly addictive. But then we make things like addiction this moral issue, which it is not. And literally, somebody's grandma is addicted to opioids because she had a hip surgery.
So this might need to be split into two episodes because we are all over the place.
I
But
mean,
we need to have a conversation about how many old people are addicted to pills. This is not a thing I knew. This is something I was not conscious of until I was like maybe 25-year-old, where I realized a lot of people had older family members that were addicted to painkillers. And a lot of people did not recognize it as an addiction as well because they're old, of course. I mean, I know the medicine says once every 12 hours. Yeah, she's taken four in the last 6 hours. It's fine. It's fine. Grandma in pain. It's fine. And I'm like, yeah, this is addiction. And we're all saying it's okay because age and because it was given to her by her doctor. But also, this is just another form of heroin that grandma just up in her room taking nonstop,
yeah.
not in the prescribed way.
So
So, anywho,
These pills ain't nothing. They were just overall really just emphasis. Look, listen to your body. Try to get to know your body. Do not let people override what you know about your body. Even things that have been considered commonplace, such as birth control, such as
Yeah.
such as whatever, are it should be put under scrutiny and should be really looked at before you just carelessly, or I don't say carelessly, before you just willy nilly, which is the same thing.
Reconsider when things go wrong what you are putting in your body. Talking about more than medicine, but yes.
That's real. Hey, that's a good point, right?
Visuals for this, the context of some of our conversations, and people can see the faces we are making towards each other while saying a statement. It's going to completely change their interpretation. Um, but yeah, birth control. But I think, yeah, going back to the side effects of birth control, because I don't think we really talk about these side effects a lot. I feel like people were put on birth control, like you said, doctors are kind of like, no, no, you're cool. You ain't worry about nothing. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of people are having major side effects from birth control, and they're not even thinking to realize, like, is this my birth control? I know for me, after I had my daughter, I got back on birth control immediately. Like literally after I gave birth, they were asking me, okay, matter of fact, why right before I went into labor, I was in the hospital waiting to dilate, and they were asking me, they're like, okay, so do you want us to, put in a what's the little copper ones?
IUD.
Yeah, and they were asking like, okay, so do you want an IUD? Do you want a blah blah blah? And me and my doctor had kind of talked about it beforehand. I had told her I was going to think about it, but I heard so many horror stories, kind of like what you were talking about with the shot. I remember the first time when I was like 14, and they were like, hey, we can put her on the shot because she's 14. She might not be mature enough to remember to take a pill every day. And luckily, my mom just said no. She was just like, no. But also, when I got older, I remember the horror stories I heard about the shot. I remember girls at school like getting on the shot and having their hair fall out
Mm-hmm.
or gaining crazy amounts of weight very quickly. Um, and the same thing with a IUD. Like I knew lots of people with horror stories. Like I know women who are like the pain I experienced when they put that in. It took
Mm-hmm.
me a month to not be in pain no more.
The
Or
amount of
women who were like, I had to get mine taken out because I could not have sex with it anymore. It was causing both me and my partner discomfort.
the amount of videos and pictures that I've seen of people's babies coming out holding the IUD or with the IUD stuck to the baby is why I'm not saying it don't work, but
They just be holding it like a I am the reigning champ. It's their champion belt. Just
hey, you
come
talk
out
about
looking like
pain?
wrestlers, just bragging.
Yeah, yeah. Combine that with the negative experiences that people are saying they have, it just don't seem worth it. And
It it
I
doesn't.
don't have the stats. I'm just saying.
It doesn't. But like I remember, so after I had my daughter, they're asking me all this, and I was like, no, I'll just get back on the pill. It's fine. And I got on and I couldn't anymore. After I had my daughter, I've been on the pill from 14 until I had her, and no problems except for getting pregnant. But I had not had any issues. And then after I had her, I could not. And we tried like four different types of pills because I was on the same exact one until I had her. And then I tried all this stuff, and I had such horrible experiences with negative side effects. I had one, they were making me bleed uncontrollably, where I just bled all the time. I lost my sex drive. I was extremely irritable and angry all the time and emotional stuff I had never experienced before. And of course, when you give birth, your hormones change. And they said that I believe it's up to 2 years. Like it takes your hormones it can take up to 2 years for your hormones to balance back out after you give birth. But yeah, and so I had to like find a new method. And it was like a year of me trying stuff before I found something that did not give me horrible side effects. And so the doctor I went to give birth to my daughter, she only worked with women who are pregnant. So I couldn't work with her anymore. I had to find another one. And they just kept trying to tell me, like, oh, you're good. Give it a little bit longer. give it a little bit longer. And for a year, like I had to use my body as a human experiment to
Mm,
find something that gave me the least amount of symptoms. And that's actually where I ended for a long time. Up until last year, it was like, what gives me the least amount of symptoms?
yeah. And I mean, I was someone who I never had a lot of negative, I didn't really experience, or I should say, I didn't notice negative side effects like that. I didn't have any that I felt were
You didn't
hugely.
give birth. That's what it was. Because I didn't until I gave birth. I
Yeah.
promise you nothing.
But, but I know, like, I have a close friend of mine who I remember her like it was, I tried this one and I spotted for 2 weeks, and I
Yeah.
tried this and my hair started falling out, and I remember just hearing her experience of going back and forth, and she did end up having cysts that need to be removed, just stuff that was something that wasn't discovered until she got off birth control. So I had
Mm-hmm.
people around me going through these journeys, and I guess that's why I'm emphasizing it, because even if you don't think something is going on, it could be
Mm-hmm.
having an impact, and you never know. And I guess how you said, just thought, oh, I'm fine, but me and birth control good. But the
Right.
reality is, and I can't say, like, since getting off of it, I can't say it's just not what I thought it would be. It's not like I'm like, oh, suddenly I've become aware of like this, or this changed for me, or this doesn't taste right. I definitely have noticed a difference in my skin, but I've also noticed that like my body is okay without it. I am okay without it. I do not need to control my cycle, my period, my all these
Mhm.
things. I don't need that level of control my body. I need to learn how to work with my body.
Yes.
And that's been more
The
of the
holistic approach. I'm not trying to control, I'm trying to learn to work with what I naturally have.
Mhm, mhm,
I
mhm.
love the way you said that.
That's been more of the lesson for me, of figuring those things out instead of trying to control stuff, and then noticing the effects of things like you said, like, oh, my period's not all over the place, oh, it's not this and this and that, oh, it's not like, I'm not really sure what it was that I was trying to control so hard because
Mhm.
it's not what I thought.
Yeah, no, same again, like I for a long time was running and was just like, I do not want to experience horrible cramps and blah blah blah. And this has probably been the most peaceful year I've had as a woman with my body. And that's not all the way, but learning how to listen to my body has definitely been a thing.
Like when I'm ovulating, I crave this. Oh yeah, when I'm ovulating, I start thinking like that. Oh yeah, when I'm in this part of my cycle, this happens.
Mm-hmm. Because I remember when I was younger, someone telling me that, like, you can just track your ovulation cycle. Nobody doing that witchcraft. What you talking about? Like, I remember having that thought. Like, what do you mean? You could just track? Like, no, mine are inconsistent. Mine are irregular. I can't track it. I can't blah, 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 blah. But no, your body does give you symptoms. And if you just allow yourself, you can. I'm not saying it's perfect for everybody, that it works the same for everybody, but I do think being in tune with your body, you can learn your body signals of like, even when it's not supposed to be your period day, being like, okay, like you said, I am craving this. I am in this mood. I am blah, 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 blah. I think my period's about to start. I think that's, yep, yep, there we go. But I think for a lot of us, at least a whole generation of us, that we definitely been brainwashed into, no, you got to be on birth control now.
It's the only way. It's the only way. It's the only.
Just
There are
just gonna
other
be
men.
out here. You don't want your period out here freestyling.
Well, and you don't want to be pregnant. So, because again, I know it was pushed on me for, just, you don't want to have no babies.
Mhm.
You have no babies. And while we're highlighting, the negative side effects, the reality of it is that, it is beneficial for that. It does help if that is your goal and that's what you're doing, by all means, but just want you to be informed, because a lot of us do this and we're not informed. We're on it forever. And I know for me, what got me off of it wasn't it. I ain't gonna act like it was because I came to this magical decision of like, oh, let me blah blah blah. Blah. It was
Mhm.
because my health insurance had ran out and I wasn't having sex. And I was like, you know what?
Look,
It's not worth it. I don't really feel like going through the stuff to try to get free birth control or whatever the hell it is I need to do, because I'm not having sex anyway. And that was it.
you know what? It's so funny that you said that because yeah, no, that was the reason saying too for me too. I had moved from working for the government and then to contract. And I had finagled because I knew I was gonna make that move. They had did too much. I was tired, and I was like, okay. And I finagled a way to get 3 months supply. birth control beforehand because the type that I was on, again, because remember, I had to go through that whole journey to find one that had the least amount of symptoms. And the one that had the least amount of symptoms was one, because you have these apps now where they're like, you can get birth control for free or $15, even without health insurance. But the one I was on, I was like, girl, this is still going to be about $83 a month. Like with all the discounts we can give you, because I was on the ring and they're like, it's still gonna be about $83. So I was like, okay, I gotta finagle a way to do this. And then I was like, and then I guess I'll just pay. But then I was celibate, so I was like, why am I paying for birth control? Just because I'm scared. I'm of my period. It's fine. I'm working from home. I'll figure it out. And yeah, and then I was just like, I don't, wait, I didn't need this. This whole time I didn't even need, that's how it came. Like you said, it was not a conscious decision. And then realize, like, I don't even think I need this. Huh, fascinating. Hmm. And it's crazy too because then I got a new job and then I got, health insurance back. And I did restart my birth control because I was like, well, just in case, maybe I need to have some stored. And now I got like 8 rings stored in my kitchen because every time I think about going back on it, I'm like, I don't need, like, I know I have so many reasons now that I'm just like, oh. And I keep convincing myself maybe somebody else will want it and I'll just give it to them so they have it for free. I need to call those folks and tell them to stop sending it to me because I got it through some subscription where they just automatically send me so many every 4 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. But you said that it made me think like, oh yeah, because mine was not a conscious decision. I had all this stuff already in place. Yeah.
I was just like, oh, let me stop this. But and again, it's out there, it's available. As Russ highlighted, there's ways to get it for free and discounted and all these things if you need that. If that is something that you feel like, hey, this is the best method for me in order to manage my life and
Family planning?
yes, this is the best thing for my life and family planning, that is fine. Just want you to know all other stuff so that it's not taken as this, like, again, super light. Oh, because I don't like my skin breaking out. Oh, because
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know. I've always been on it. Like, we don't want to be mindlessly, and we talk a lot about doing stuff on autopilot. That is not something that you want to be doing on autopilot because it has other effects. Um, there are other forms of contraception. There are other ways to prevent pregnancy. Check them out.
Yeah.
Answers, look. um, like you were saying, tracking condoms. Condoms exist. Come on, y'all. They're actually very effective if used properly. And I know because again, for me, I definitely had birth control as a backup because I did not trust folks and their managing of whatnots, and I certainly didn't want anything to happen and I not have any backup. But I guess the other reality of it is you shouldn't be having sex with people that you don't trust to not do strange things to the condom. Or if you don't trust that, if you don't have that level of trust, then you probably shouldn't be doing stuff. But I mean, the reality of it is that honestly is another reason I was on birth control because that did happen to me where someone was tampering
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't. And once I pinned it down and noticed it and called it out, and that person looked me in my face and was like, oh, because I figured if you had my baby you could never leave me. Yeah, I'm gonna get that pill because y'all not about to get me. And that was part of my thinking as well. But anyway, so protect yourself, but also again, there's other methods. Look into them. Don't have sex with people you don't trust, and then you can avoid some of those. And then a
But let
condom
me ask you briefly, what about when you are
and a relate
and you're like,
and
nope, this is my person. We're married. And we don't want
and
because
and that's why I'm saying the other methods, right? Like you and I, no, because I think you're having a conversation about that one day of like, right? Because same when you mine and I'm yours, I would like to feel everything. And so, I'm not there yet, so I don't know, but I want that to be. I guess what I've decided is that should be a conversation between me and my partner in terms of what we
Mhm.
decide to do, and I want to be able to have that be that conversation of like, hey, look, I want us to cross this threshold, but we gotta we gotta be real about what this is gonna look like because, and I don't know right now. I'm not ready to be back on birth control, or not a hormonal birth control method. Maybe I would be rather to try like a barrier method of some sort. Those exist, such as diaphragms, spermicide. They got sponges. They got all kind of stuff that exists, and I don't know. I have not used these things,
Look,
so
we
I'm
gonna
not.
just roll the cap. If I'm, we gonna just roll dice and see what happens. Okay, we
If I'm married, like okay, if I'm
the
married
rhythm method. The
and we're
rhythm method.
yes, the rhythm method. The rhythm method, huge. If I'm married, yeah, we're probably just gonna do like the rhythm method or something. But again, a conversation,
Solid.
me and that person, um, yeah, between me and that person. And of course, that's because I am in the phase of life where I don't envision me having casual sex as much. And so, yeah, well, casual sex is a condom. Period. 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 Um, but if I was, I think, more active, then yes, it would make more sense to try to have some sort of backup situation or whatever. But um, if you're being selective,
This low key accidentally turned into a conversation with your mom. I'm like, just don't. If you don't love him,
you know
why are you
what I
rolling the dice?
mean? Nah, what I'm halfway saying is if you out here, then yeah, a pill might be something that you want to have as backup or what have you.
Mhm.
But if you're being a little more selective and intentional, then you have room to plan and think and
And
figure.
here's my thing. I'm not against it. I don't think either of us are saying don't do it. It's horrible. Never do it again. Just the conversation of like, these are things we didn't know when we got on it. These are things that I'm not sure everybody, all the women still out there know. And so, hey, these are just the facts. Do with them what you want. It might be give your body a break for 5 years, and then afterwards, it's like, nah, girl, we got 5 kids. I ain't trying to get no more. And go ahead, boo. I am with you. I'm telling you, I got one more baby in me before I'm like, I can tie everything, snip and burn. I'm good. So do what you feel you need to do for you and your partner and your family planning needs, but at least have the information.
Also, vasectomies are reversible. If anyone needed that information, it's a small office procedure. That's all I'm saying. As opposed to all this other side effects that we've talked about, all the other things. Vasectomies are reversible. They're a small office procedure.
So that's all we have for today's episode, guys. We hope you enjoyed. You know where to follow us on Instagram at She Wolf Alchemy. And if you need to get in touch with us, you can reach out to us via email at shewolfalchemypodcast@gmail.com. And other than that, you'll hear the sound of our voice next Sunday. And yeah, bye.
Bye.